Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
I'll admit this story has very little to do with the law, but it has law enforcement in it, but it has a dog in it, and I like dogs. So Bob sent it. It's from the Miami Herald. It's a short story, but, you know, sometimes dogs are smarter than we are. They are. And I'll tell you, sometimes there are some dogs that I like more than people. So surprised Florida SWAT team watches dogs surrender and climb into their armored vehicle. So that's the story. So Florida law enforcement agency's got a SWAT team. SWAT team shows up at an incident. They have an armored vehicle. They pull up. They're setting up. They got their armored vehicle there. They got the place surrounded. And what happens? A dog bolts out of the house and jumps into the armored vehicle, as if to say, I got nothing to do with that. Mark Price wrote this. A tense SWAT confrontation took an odd turn when a dog bolted from the home's front door and jumped into the back of an armored vehicle, according to Florida law enforcement officials. Take me with you. Take me with you. It happened this week at a home in Jensen Beach, and it's still not clear if the dog was surrendering or switching sides. Jensen Beach is about 115 miles north of Miami. With every search warrant, you usually have a runner. But this time the runner seemed like he was more interested in jumping to the law enforcement side while a house full of suspects were being arrested, says Martin County Sheriff's Office in a news release. So with a warrant, you have a runner. I mentioned before, I've been watching a lot of them police chase videos on YouTube. They can be quite entertaining and maddening too, because I understand that 99.99999% of all traffic stops are uneventful in the sense that the police turn on the lights, person pulls over, police officer pulls over, and the officer walks up to the car and they have an interaction. There may or may not be a ticket, and things move on. But you start watching police chase videos, and every single one of those that you see in a row, officer turns on his lights and the person takes off. And I mean, I've seen people take off who are being pulled over for, speeding a few miles an hour over the speed limit. Why they took off, no one knows. Sometimes you figure it out. You know, a person's got a stack of warrants and the car is stolen. But here they're talking about serving a warrant on somebody, and they say with every search warrant, you usually have a runner. So the police show up, knock on the door, announce themselves, and go, police, we have a warrant. And he's saying that, in essence, quite often, somebody will bolt when they hear that. The police are here, they have a warrant. Now, this was a search warrant. So don't know if they also had an arrest warrant or not. But when special investigation detectives, along with the MCSO SWAT team, executed the warrant, a dog ran out the front door, past the detectives, and right into the armored Bearcat. No word on what he was running from, but he made the right decision. And that, of course, is the official statement. The dog's name, by the way, was Bear. And the vehicle he ran into is a Bearcat. Now, that could be a coincidence, and I'm sure it is. Photos shared on Facebook show the Bear sat at the back door of the armored vehicle as his 5 acquaintances were arrested on multiple drug charges. Deputies did not say if his owner was among those arrested. The Facebook post had nearly 1,500 reactions and over 150 comments as of the next day, including some who wondered if the dog was now in witness protection. Sheriff's officials did not reveal the fate of Bear other than to say he is safe. Tonight, we are happy to report that he is in good hands. So the dog bolted and jumped in their vehicle, and it's kind of like, those guys are crazy, And it does make you wonder, and they jokingly say that, dog is a man's best friend. I always wonder about things like this, if you were inside that house, okay, and let's assume that the house is bolted up really, really well. You got, iron bars across the doors, and the cops can't get in for quite a bit unless you let them in. And somehow your dog gets out, and you see your dog run over and jump in a law enforcement vehicle. That would have to be disheartening. Dude, what? You're doing this to me? Who feeds you? I feed you. But the thing about it is that dogs, one of the reasons we love dogs so much is that they do reduce things quite simply. In other words, your dog is there when you come home from work and isn't going to go, you aren't going to believe the day I had. Your dog come home, you come home from work and your dog says, hey, I'm happy to see you. I'm glad you're here. Let's hang out, and that's the whole thing, And I mention from time to time, I love dogs. I don't have any dogs right now. I had 2 dogs, 2 Shetland sheepdogs. And I know many of you know this, but I had 2 Shetland sheepdogs, and I had them for about 15 years. And I had one for a little while, then got a second one. And then the first one passed away at the age of 15. And the second one also made it to 15 or 16. So there was a big time in my adult life, about half the time that I was an attorney, I had those dogs. And, so you really understand it. And I know people in the audience who are cat people. And cats are quite similar. I'm not going to say that they're the same. When I was growing up, I had a cat. And in fact, the cat that we got when I was 4 years old or 5 years old. I forgot exactly, 4 or 5. I remember getting the cat. That's one of the earliest memories I have as a child. And the cat made it to 16. He made it to 16. And that cat had some adventures. I mean, I remember he lived with a family in the city we lived in before we moved to Birmingham. Then he lived in Birmingham for 14 years. And we used to take him on vacation. So he's been to the Upper Peninsula. I remember going fishing with my brothers, just like out of a Huckleberry Finn story, where we're cutting through the woods to go back to the creek, and we see the ferns moving ahead of us. So we stop, and it's Tommy. He comes walking by, and he looks at us and just keeps walking. We're going fishing. Maybe he just was fishing. I don't know. But that was not terribly close to the house. And so, that cat had adventures also. But, also on the set, I've got the lawyer dog sign. I've got the barrister dog down here and the lawyer dog over here. And I may as well tell you, for the few people in the audience who don't know the story, and I know that I picked up subscribers recently who might not know this, but there's a famous case out of the South where a man who was arrested was told, if you'd like an attorney, you're entitled to one. If you can't afford one will be appointed for you. And he said, okay, I'd like a lawyer dog. And if you were to transcribe that sentence, it'd be, I would like a lawyer, comma, dog. And he's addressing the person by calling them a dog as opposed to dude or chief or friend or pal. I'd like a lawyer, pal. And they didn't provide him a lawyer. And when asked later why they didn't provide a lawyer, he said, well, he asked for a lawyer dog, not a lawyer. See, there's no comma there, a lawyer dog. And there's no such thing there are no lawyer dogs. And the courts upheld that. A state Supreme Court actually said, yeah, he asked for a lawyer dog. And that, to me, is one of those stories that's so embarrassing. It embarrasses the legal profession. It should embarrass law enforcement to actually pretend you don't understand someone who's speaking English to you. Oh, sometimes people actually say, hey, dog, what you doing? What up, dog? You've never heard that. Never. Okay. So I've ranted a bit about dogs, and I apologize. But if you've got a dog, please pat your dog in the head one time for me today and let me know. But this is a great story because Bear the dog wanted no part of the nonsense going inside that house. What those guys are doing in there, it ain't me. It ain't me. Take me with you. So Bob, thanks for sending it. From the Miami Herald, surprised Florida SWAT team watches dogs surrender and climb into their armored vehicle. Mark Price wrote that. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. A cynic knows the price of everything and the value of nothing.